Well, welcome once again. This is the Doctor of Digital at the Doctor of Digital podcast. The purpose of the show is to transform your business and life with education and inspiration. I introduce busy business leaders to trends in business, technology, and marketing to highlight people you should know. Are you tired of the roller coaster ride of inconsistent client acquisition in your B2B service business? What if you could transform your marketing strategy into a 24/7 customer generating machine that works even while you sleep? Today, I'm joined by a guest who has cracked the code on sustainable growth for B2B companies, and he's here to share his secrets with us. Meet Callum Armstrong, the founder of Paste and Publish, and a marketing coach with a track record of impressive achievements. Over the past 6 years, Callum has built and exited multiple companies, grown a content marketing agency from scratch to a team of 9, and helped clients achieve staggering results, including a 1,000 increase in organic traffic in just 18 months. But Callum's expertise goes beyond just business growth. He's also a passionate conservationist, co running the Reforestation Fund charity and integrating environmental consciousness into his entrepreneurial ventures. From developing a premium personal care brand that supports native plant cultivation to baking bread and protecting endangered species in his spare time, Callum brings a unique blend of business acumen and environmental stewardship to the table. Get ready for an episode packed with actionable insights on B2B marketing, social entrepreneurship, and sustainable business practices. During this episode, we'll do a deep dive into the changes and hot topics of content marketing, its biggest challenges and growth, and I will leverage the expertise of my guest in how to navigate the unique dynamics of the field. By the end of this episode, you'll be better equipped to know what to do, and I encourage you to contact my guest, Callum Armstrong, the founder of Paste and Publish. And with that, I want to thank you to the program. How are you doing today?
I'm great, thank you, Mick, and thanks for having me on board. That was quite an endearing introduction.
Well, you bet. And you deserve all the accolades that you have coming your way. So I'm really curious about tell us a story because you got an unusual and unique background. How did you get into this field in the first place?
Yeah, so great question. I grew up in a family with my father running businesses, and so I was always learning about how business works on the side. I had a few ventures growing up, selling stuff at school, that type of thing. I had an environmental and a science-minded background, but I decided to go down the business and marketing path. Left uni, worked for the family business, and I was selling carpet of all things, driving around my home country, New Zealand. And throughout this time, I first thought, this green grass, this lush land is so beautiful.
Hmm.
And I was blown away by it. After about a year of that, I realized that this used to all be native forest, and now it's mostly farmland. That stuck in my head. I ended up leaving that company a few years later, went traveling, and I discovered this plant called Manuka. You might have heard of Manuka honey,
Oh,
but
yeah.
the oil from this plant has amazing health benefits, and the science is pretty phenomenal. But as I got into it, I found out that this plant Manuka is also the first stage in bringing back a native forest. I learned
Oh,
about other native plants that had other medicinal properties in New Zealand, and this brought out the idea that if we could create demand for native plant extracts on a global scale, we could help landowners to make it profitable to bring native forests back to their land and restore their ecosystems. So I flew
okay.
home. I started this company called Manuka Essentials, and as I was doing that, selling natural skincare with native plants, I was contracting as a marketer on the side. That when lockdown hit, my first business, Manuka Essentials, went to zero, and I had a bunch of clients that were getting great results that said, "Hey, can you build an agency?" I didn't really want to, so I said, "Hey, look, we're going to do 5% of our revenue to help the environment, and we're going to give back to nature." So we did that. We built that to a team of 9 people. But I found that I was so busy spending time working on managing a team and managing all aspects of the client delivery, and getting great results, but it wasn't necessarily fulfilling, and I was just working all hours.
Hmm.
So I also realized that whilst the idea of creating demand for native plant extracts was great, there were other ways that we could help nature that were more effective. So long story short, over a few years, I sold the Manuka Essentials business, and I wound down the agency and turned my business Paste and Publish into a B2B marketing coaching and consulting firm. And we started a charity. As you mentioned, it was the Reforestation Fund, but we recently rebranded to Conservation Amplified. I'd love to share why we did that and how we're helping nature to thrive. But yeah, that's I guess the long story into a short few minutes.
Yeah, and it's pretty interesting because you got a story, but you've also gone through some significant changes. So you had both, and I'm very curious then, where are you now? And what would you say are some of the hot topics that you can address? Because you have had some changes over the years and pretty dramatic ones at that.
Yeah, great question. So now it's mostly me in Paste and Publish. We're very small and boutique. We have a few clients at a time that we provide really good service to, and we just focus on getting results for. Rather than taking on all of their marketing work, I normally come in, help to upskill and train the client, and connect
Okay.
them with really good quality service providers, and then train them on how to manage those people. Every client's different, so we tailor it to what their needs are. But quite often I say, look, you're not actually ready for marketing, so just do some
Mm,
sales, look after your customers. On that business is really we use the money from Paste and Publish to run our charity, Conservation Amplified, and to create this space to be self-employed, doing really good work for clients so that we can sustainably grow this charity. Now, I'm not sure what it's like in America and other countries if you're listening from other parts of the world, but here in New Zealand, conservation is done largely by the community.
right.
Done. It's very underfunded by the government, and so there
Mm,
are over 2,000 community groups around our country of volunteers that show up. Some are paid, but it's mostly volunteer.
right.
Um, the barriers to our biodiversity being restored are awareness and funding, and they're desperately needed. We have more endangered species than any other country in the world. We've had more extinctions in the last 1,000 years than any other country in the world. We've lost,
Right.
I think it's like 90% of our wetlands, 99% of our seabirds. Yeah, I could go on, but there's amazing work being done,
Okay.
and people don't know about it, even in their own backyard, and the money's just not there to help. So when we started, we were focused on getting funding, and that was the Reforestation
Mm,
Fund, which is a story for another day. But now we focus on raising awareness because awareness precedes funding. So we run a podcast called the People Helping Nature podcast, where we tell the stories of people helping nature. It's aimed at people that care about the environment. They want to learn more, but they don't know what they don't know. And we help to connect people, share their knowledge and stories, and help them to get involved in a fun way that sparks people's curiosity.
mm,
And yeah, that's basically me now. So it's been a bit of a journey, but I think the hot topic for a lot of businesses that care
right.
about nature is how do we how do we make change? Where do we start? And I think the best thing is just to start and try not to make it some kind of boring compliance driven duty. If you're a big company, you will have task force for nature related financial disclosures. There are major legislative changes coming in. But if you're a smaller business, a lot of the time it's better to say, what's in my own backyard? What do I care about? Do we have a local forest or mountain or coastal
Sure.
area or wetland that we can help? Is there a community we can support? And make it fun. Because if it's fun, it's gonna work. And if it doesn't work and it's fun, you're going to persevere. If it's boring, you're more likely to give up when things don't work or just throw the money at it and disappear.
This is a very unique approach, and I find it very fascinating. And yes, it'd be saying there's some differences between New Zealand and the States and how things go about. There's some government funding, there's some local groups, but it's interesting to say how you should make it fun as well too. Would you say, and how would you recommend business owners? Let's say it's a unique approach and not every business owner does it. They might even not know how to do this. So I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about that process. You work with a company, you work with a client, and how do you introduce and get these ideas across? They're groundbreaking.
So when I work with clients, it's mostly to help them grow their business, to make more money, to get more customers through their marketing. And it's mostly growth driven. It's not so much
Hmm.
philanthropically driven. I do help charities. Would you like me to talk to how they can get more involved in the environment or how they can grow their business?
Yeah, I think it's a unique combination in some ways. So I'd
Yeah.
be curious if you say a little bit of how you work with a client, and then also how do you integrate because the environment is a concern of so many people, sustainable growth and the environment in general. So I'm curious, how do you blend those two together, and how do you introduce your clients into that world?
Yeah, great question. I haven't figured out the answer to the last part of your question just yet. I'm still figuring that one out. When we had an agency, we used to just basically do it for them. We would say, if you hire us, we'll use 5% of our revenue of what you spend, and we'll pay our team to do free work for environmental projects. That
Okay.
was good, but there were some reasons why we moved away from that. How I help clients to grow is quite straightforward. First, we have a free diagnosis. We talk to people, ask them a series of questions to determine what stage their business is in. We focus on B2B services, so companies that solve problems for other companies. And generally, there are a few stages. Firstly, you want to prove your offer. You want to prove that you're solving a useful problem,
Mm,
that your
sure.
clients are happy, that they're getting results, that they're coming back, that they're either referring or you've got a consistent sales and customer getting pathway. Once you've got that in place, you want to make sure that you can grow your fulfillment. There's no point in investing in all this marketing, tripling your business, and finding out that you don't have trained staff or that your systems aren't in place. So
Okay.
before you can do that, it is let's get your fulfillment, let's get a proven sales process that actually works for you. And I think people jump into marketing too soon. We all want to close a deal. And so
Yep.
we say, hey, I can help you with your search engine optimization or your ads. And we don't necessarily think about what's the reality for your business. So my first question is, are you even ready for marketing? And if you're not, I can give you advice, I can point you in the right direction, connect you with people, or if it's the right situation, coach you. But at that point where you're ready to grow, you've got your systems and your back end in place, you've got the ability to close sales in a
Hmm.
authentic and trustworthy way, um, and you've got a growable system basically. Then we say, if you want to grow, let's invest in marketing, and then we there's basically a four-step method. I call it fishing. When you go fishing, you want to know what fish you're catching, where they hang out, where they live, what type of bait or lures they're going to take, and then you go to you get the right equipment because you need the equipment to go fishing. Do you need a net? Do you need to fix the holes in your net? Do you need a different type of line and tackle for your rod? Is your reel strong enough? And then you go out and test it, maybe talk to some other salty fishermen that are there, and then you learn and you test and improve and you double down on what you're doing. So those are the four stages in marketing. Firstly is, who are your ideal customers? What are their problems, their pain points, their triggers to seek a solution, the consequences of not solving it, the alternatives, the objections, um, the outcomes that they can get, etc. What is your offer? How are you solving that for them? What actually matters to them? Like, not what you want to sell, but what they actually need, and make sure that you're doing that. The next is set up your fishing gear. So do you have the website that reflects that properly? Are you, depending on how you're marketing to them, you might need an email marketing system with sequences of flows. You might need a lead magnet. You might need sales pages. You might need your analytics set up. You might need a content plan. You might need your ad account set up. Lots of different things you might need, but that's setting up based on the strategy you have in place. Then you're going to test it. A lot of
Right.
things don't work in marketing.
Yeah.
I'd say that 8 out of 10 things that people try don't work. And
Okay.
that's, I could be wrong. I could be just underestimating it, but I think we like to hang our hat on our wins, but we don't always admit that there's a lot of things that don't work that we try and they're just a cost of learning. So you test different things. And then as you find out what works, you double down on that and you test new things and grow. So that's the framework basically that we work through with clients to grow their business. As for the environmental factor, how do you as a business get more involved? This is going to depend on you personally. Here's a few ways that you can get involved, and I'm
Okay.
happy to chat more if you want. You can get in touch with me. The first one is, can you do staff work days helping an environmental group? Uh, well, firstly, are there communities that need help that don't have the resources
Mm,
or funding? Because if you can say we'll bring 20 or 30 staff to help your project, that's going to make your staff happy. It's going to make them more loyal. It's going to be team building, but it's also going to help.
sure.
Can you, if you have requirements in your business that can be performed by an environmental group, and this isn't going to be relevant to a lot of businesses, can you outsource that? For example, if you're a farmer and you have a wetland on your farm and there's a wetland protection society in your area, rather than being at loggerheads with them saying, are you protecting the species in that wetland? And you know that you've got an obligation to fix this and you care about it, can you maybe outsource part of that contract that you would have paid your staff to do and just give it to them as a contract? And they might use staff and volunteers, but that's going to give them consistent funding to do their work. That's another method. There is the rise of a concept called biodiversity credits coming out, and it's something to look at, but it is still in very early stages. But how this works is you essentially give money to protect a certain amount of habitat, and but it's very complex, so I wouldn't go too far down that rabbit hole until we see more development in that space. But yeah, that's a few tips and recommendations to how you can grow your business and how you can help the environment with your business.
That sounds good. It's a unique approach. It's two for one. Like we used to call in the old days, they used to sell jazz albums a twofer because you get two for the price of one. It's kind of like that. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
curious, a person's been listening to you. Would you be able to provide just some actionable tips? Like what could a person do? They're a business owner and they're interested. What actionable tips could they work on today?
Yeah, so to grow their business,
Yeah.
keeping in mind, the first question is, are you ready to do marketing? Talk to your customers. Are your customers happy? Are they sticking around? It'll depend on your offer, if it's a one-off or if you're doing an ongoing retainer or pricing or however you're structured. But are your customers sticking around? Are they growing? Do you have when you solve this problem for them, are you understanding the next problem and seeing how you can solve it for them? Are you doing an amazing job for your customers? Because
Okay.
you can't really that easily control the cost of getting a customer, but you can have a lot more control over how much they spend over their lifetime. So look at that. If you serve your clients well, like we've got clients from 4 years ago that have spent lots of money with us, and that costed us maybe a bit of time and relationship building at the time, and we still earn every month from them because we look after them. So can you look after your customers better with your sales process? Can you have a stream of customer getting that's on tap that you can turn on and off? And then look at marketing. Do you know the foundation of why your customers are buying? Too many businesses shout at their customers without actually having empathy.
It's true.
Um,
Yeah.
we can help with this if you like, but that's essentially what I would ask. If you have these foundations in place, if it's so much easier to grow, whether that's through serving your customers better, selling more, or doing more marketing, because you actually have a genuine relationship that's serving their what's in it for me. And if you do the marketing yourself, you hire a staff member, you outsource to a contractor or an agency, they will perform better knowing this. And if you don't have this, they will not perform as well. And I can pretty much guarantee that, because that's just the fundamentals. That's the first principles of marketing, is know your customer. As for tips to help nature, well, we've kind of covered that in terms of how you can help with your staff, with outsourcing contracts, with other methods. But again, I would just stress, make sure that this is something that follows your curiosity, that
Mm,
follows your joy. And if you have a team, ask them what they want, because the key is making it sustainable. If you do something for a year or 3 years and then you stop, that might have a bit of an impact. But what's going to have a lot more impact is if you find something that you love, that brings you joy, that adds value and richness and diversity to your life that you can do for the next 30 years or the next 50 years, that you can look back on and say to your grandkids, look at what we did,
Yeah,
because nature doesn't work in 3-year cycles.
for sure. We talked a number of things here with the hot topics, the changes, a unique approach to marketing and the environment, and also some actionable tips, which I think is really helpful. Now, if a person was getting a hold of you, how would they do that? And I'm curious where you work and how do you work with people? Just New Zealand or where do you work with other people? But how do they reach you if they want to chat?
Yeah, thank you for asking, Mick. For both of them, I speak English. So if you're in an English speaking country, I can help you. Um, I speak a little bit of German, but not enough to do a good job. So yeah, happy to have a chat in German, but I'm probably not going to help. Yeah, we work with clients in New Zealand, in America, and other
Okay.
English speaking countries. I work remotely. So currently we're in Rotorua in New Zealand, but I do travel quite a bit. So yeah, happy to help there. If you're looking for help with your marketing and your growth, go to pasteandpublish.com. I'll send you the link to the website. And yeah, happy to have a chat and give you some guidance on where to focus. And if you want to take it further, we can, but you don't have to. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn if you want to be social and connect. So I'll also send you the link to LinkedIn. If you're interested in our charity and our podcast, People Helping Nature, go to conservationamplified.org or search for People Helping Nature podcast on Spotify or YouTube. Again, I'll provide the links. But yeah, if you're thinking about helping nature and you're thinking about growing your business, I just say good on you. And I like to think that the people that like business is a tool for change. Um, I heard a quote from someone, and I can't remember who it was. It was quite a while back, but they said, gladiators were one of the tools for change in the Roman times. Explorers and colonists, I guess you could say, although I don't want to use that word too liberally, were a tool for change in the last few hundred years, and now entrepreneurs are the tool for change. I don't know if I fully believe that quote, but I do think it's interesting that when you run a business, you are diverting and allocating resources to what you need to allocate them to. And if you are in that position, you have this amazing, phenomenal potential to allocate resources to make your life better, to make your staff lives better. And if you want to help the environment, you don't have to, but if you want to, you're in one of the best positions to do that out of anyone in your society. So yeah.
Awesome. Makes the world a better place. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for all the
Yeah.
insights and all the things that you're saying. This very unique approach and a very interesting approach to the whole field. Thank you for being my guest. I'm much obliged.
Thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure being on here, and I've really enjoyed your humor and just yeah, the fun of being here. So thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, sir. If you like what you're hearing, and certainly I hope that you do, make sure that you're liking, subscribing, positively reviewing, and also sharing with other people on social media. I'd like to thank the promoters of the program and the sponsors. That is both the publishers of Burning America and also On Track, Ian Hunter. And if you want to reach out to me, by all means, please do. I help business leaders, CEOs, entrepreneurs break through their obscurity through written presentations, building credibility and authority. You can see me on Idea to Author Coach. And of course, if you're just an everyday person, quoting Sly and the Family Stone, feel free to reach out as well. Until the next time, this is the Doctor of Digital podcast and the Doctor of Digital signing off. Deus Volt.